What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, March 19th, and we have some more college basketball action to dive into for tonight. We have some NIT tournament games going down and also the last two of the first four games going on later on tonight. We're going to go ahead and cover both of those first four games, and we'll touch on a handful of the NIT games as well. Got some plays that I like for a few of those games. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it, man. Wait, actually, we got to go ahead and take a look back at Sunday, man. I just wanted to skip right by it because it was not the greatest day. Let's go ahead and pull those picks up, man. That's the last video that we did make. It was to wrap up that conference tournament weekend. Had a good little stretch to the conference tournaments, and then Sunday comes and we go 1-4, unfortunately. So, the key here in sports betting is not to stack up on these losing nights, right? They're going to come. But let's just try to avoid stacking up on them. So let's bounce back tonight, man. Let's do that right here, right now. Let's avoid stacking up on a losing night. Let's have a profitable night here on Wednesday. Let's dive right into it, guys. We got the first four games going down, like I said. Looking at that first one to tip this video off. 6:40 tip-off time between American and Mount St. Mary's. We got American coming in as favorites. I'm looking at them on the money line, minus 140 over there at Caesars. I've already got that one locked in. Let's go ahead and talk about it, man. Let's talk about how I got there myself. I'm looking at both of these teams coming into here, man. They both finished the season strong, right? They both won 8 of their last 10 games. They're both riding 4-game winning streaks into this game here. But on the year, coming into a game off of a win, Mount St. Mary sits at 12-9. American sits at 15-6. And American has also won the last 4 now straight up head-to-head, the last 4 in a row straight up against Mount St. Mary's. And as we mentioned, like I said, American is the favorite in this one. They are 12-4 on the season as a favorite. Mount St. Mary's is just 11-8 as a dog. Another thing, looking at these stats, right? Team stats. Despite Mount St. Mary's averaging more points per game overall on the year, American is big. They're bringing the better offense into this game. Just hands down, they've played better basketball here as of late than Mount St. Mary's. Their offense is clicking and playing much better than Mount St. Mary's. In the last 5 games alone, American is averaging just under 69 points per game. Mount St. Mary's is averaging just under 63 points per game. So like I said, despite them averaging more on the year, in the last 5, American is averaging more points per game and playing the better offensive basketball. And then just looking at the Ken Palm rankings too, American sits at 252nd offensively. Mount St. Mary sits all the way down at 294th. But in that regard, we could make the argument that, okay, all right, let's look at those same Ken Palm rankings, right? Mount St. Mary's has the higher rated defense. They're sitting at 176 as compared to American sitting at 206. But the thing we got to consider with that is that Mount St. Mary sits at 360th overall in the nation in terms of turnover percentage. That's horrible, just for the record. And American's defense sits at 117th for turnover percentage from the opposition, meaning that American's not only bringing the better offense onto this court, but they're also, they should be able to force Mount St. Mary's into some mistakes, create some more opportunities for that offense, right? For the better offense on the court that they're bringing on. So I like American in this, guys. Let's go ahead and jump over to Outlier real quick. And then, like I said, both of these teams are coming into this one hot. In their last 5, they've both won 80% of the time. Their last 10, both have won 80% of the time. But American has been playing better ball more consistently throughout the year because we push it back further. Let's look at them in the last 20. American's still sitting at 80% as far as winnings, right? Mount St. Mary's sitting at 65%. Let's look at this insight from Outlier as well. We can see that American is 12-1 in their last 13 games as a favorite. That's a 92% hit rate. So I definitely like American. Like I said, on the money line, I've already locked that one in myself. I took that minus 140 over there at Caesars as well. Next up, going to be looking at one of those NIT games. We have a 7 p.m. tip-off between my Dayton Flyers and Florida Atlantic. Yes, I am a Dayton Flyer fan, so I am a little biased, right? But Dayton is the better team overall here, right? And I'm going to prove to you that they are the better team. We're going to go ahead and dive into some numbers here so that we can prove that I'm not just being a biased Flyer fan here, man. Florida Atlantic is a very short favorite in this one. I'm looking at it at the money line. It's really a pick 'em. Both teams are minus odds, right? But I think it's Florida Atlantic minus 1.5 right now on the books. Nah, man, Dayton should be favored in this one. All right, let's look at the Ken Palm rankings. Just start things off. Dayton overall, 75th. Florida Atlantic, 113th. Offensively, Dayton, 52nd. Florida Atlantic, 82nd. Defensively, Dayton, 129th. Florida Atlantic, 199th. Okay, they're the better team overall, offensively and defensively throughout the ratings as far as Ken Palm's concerned. Okay, Let's look at Florida Atlantic in their last 10. Straight up, they've gone 5-5. Dayton in their last 10, winners of 7. Winners of 4 of their last 5 as well, if we want to just shrink that down a little bit. And then both of these teams are coming off of a loss coming into this game, right? Dayton 6-3 in that scenario. Florida Atlantic just 7-7. Okay, Dayton's a road dog in this one. Like I said, silly. They're 2-0 in that scenario, and then they're 12-5 when they're coming into a game with equal rest, as they are in this one with Florida Atlantic, who is just 3-7 in the same scenario. And then in non-conference action this season, Florida Atlantic went 7-6. Dayton went 10-3. So like I said, man, a lot of things just trend-wise, pointing us in that Flyer direction. Like I said, they've just been playing better basketball in their last 5, winning at 80% rate. Florida Atlantic just 60%. Push it back to the last 10. You can see Dayton sitting at 70%. Florida Atlantic just at 50%. Let's look at them, or let's look at this insight here from Outlier as well. And that's just another trend pointing us in that Dayton direction. They are 4-1 in their last 5 games on the road at 80% win rate. So I definitely like that one here. And they are on the road, okay? This is a good time to clarify that. Looking at these NIT tournament games, these first 2 rounds, we're not at neutral sites, okay? So if it says Dayton at Florida Atlantic, they are at Florida Atlantic. Okay, that's the big difference between all the conference tournament games that we were just going over in the last few videos, and then March Madness, the typical NCAA tournament that everybody's paying attention to. That all the games are at a neutral site. That's the big difference here. These first 2 rounds at the NIT tournament, they are they're played at each team's home courts. So we can take those home and away splits, and we can look at those once again, and they actually factor in. So. Keep that in mind with the NIT, but like I said, just the first 2 rounds. Once we hit the quarterfinals, they will be played at neutral sites as well. But like I said, man, I'm looking at Dayton on the money line here, minus 106 over there at FanDuel. Be sure that you check down into the pinned comment down below. I'll have a link down there. Always put a link down there in that pinned comment that's going to direct you over to the Guy Boston Sports website. It's going to let you know any of the plays that I end up rolling with officially myself. Now, 9 times out of 10, if I go over it in this video, I'm playing it, right? But some of these plays I haven't actually put in yet. Sometimes the odds shift before I do. Sometimes they're just not as favorable anymore. So like I said, there's that 1 time out of 10 that I don't play it. But like I said, man, always just check back into that pinned comments. That way you can get over there to that Guy Boston website. You can see exactly what I am rolling with as far as these games are concerned. And if I added anything else in as well, sometimes we hop off these videos and we see a whole nother game pop up that we just didn't even, just didn't see it the way that I see it post video. And now all of a sudden, hey, this actually looks like a good play. So I'll throw that in there as well. And if I do anything like that and we didn't go over it in the video, put a little excerpt in there as well. That way you can kind of see where my brain's at and why I chose to play that play as well. So let's get back into it. And then next up, we're going to be looking at a parlay still in the NIT tournament, looking at George Mason on the money line, and then also looking at Loyola Chicago on the money line as well. Combine those 2 together, going to get plus 119 odds over there at FanDuel. So we can look at George Mason first. They're taking on Samford. George Mason is going to be at home in this one. They are 17-1 at home this year. Samford is 9-6 on the road, so not horrible. George Mason, man, an impressive, like I said, 17-1. They're also 22-4 this year as a favorite. Samford just 0-4 as a dog. So definitely like that in our favor, looking at George Mason on the money line. Samford's had 10 days off since they last played on the 8th, man. And I think that's going to play into this here, right? That gives them an 8-day rest advantage over George Mason. But even though they are 5-1 with a rest advantage, personally, I just don't know how much having that much time off is beneficial to a college team. These are young guys, right? They don't need that recuperation time. To me, that just spells a recipe for rust. You know what I mean? You got one team coming in here with some rhythm. They've been playing. And you got one team that's been sitting on the couch for over a week. So I don't know. I don't think that favors Samford whatsoever. This is the time where you could say a rest advantage is actually a disadvantage. But then even looking at that, George Mason isn't. They're not sweating a rest disadvantage anyways. They're 7-1 in that scenario on the year. And then they're 19-4 when coming into a game with 2 days of rest, which they're doing here as well. So like I said, they're in rhythm. I like them here. They've won 7 of their last 10, 4 of their last 5. Samford split in their last 10 at 5-5. They've only won 2 of their last 5. They bring the better offense into this one, Samford does, onto the court, but George Mason rolls out one of the nation's best defenses. So all in all, Give me the team that's playing better ball, and they're at home. And then for the second leg of this parlay, going to be looking at Loyola Chicago, like I said, on the money line over San Jose State. Just let's pull up the Ken Palm rankings right off the rip with this one. Loyola sitting at 109 overall, 166 offensively, 94th defensively. San Jose State 169 overall, 170 offensively, and just 194th defensively. So another scenario where, we have one team that's clearly the better team in this matchup. Just looking at both of these teams in their last four, you got, teams trending in different directions. San Jose State sitting at 1-3, while Loyola Chicago has won 3 of their last 4. They're also favorites in this one, obviously, and they're on the road, where as away favorites, they've been 3-1 on the year, Loyola Chicago. They're 17-4 overall as favorites. Looking at San Jose State, 5-17 overall as a dog, 1-7 when they are a dog at home. And then these guys, they're coming into this one with equal rest. San Jose State has won 7 of the last 19 games in that scenario. Loyola Chicago has won 10 of their last 15 when they're coming into a game with equal rest as well. And then jumping over here to Outlier, looking at this money line as well. In the last 10 games, we can see, right, Loyola Chicago sitting at 8-10 in their last 10 games. San Jose State just 3-7. Loyola Chicago has also covered in 9 of those 10 games as well, right? They covered against the spread. So we like that, man. I like that a lot. They've looking really good. San Jose State as well, looking at this insight from Outlier, they're just 2-9 in their last 11 games as a dog. Like I said, when they're not favored, man, when they're a dog, even if they're at home, it just does not seem to matter. This is not a good team. Loyola Chicago is clearly the better squad, so I love parlaying that together, like I said, with that George Mason pick and getting that at plus money over there at FanDuel, plus 119 odds. And then lastly, we're looking at that last of the first 4 games, Texas and Xavier. Xavier is favored. I'm looking at him, guys. I'm looking at Xavier on the money line. Now, FanDuel has a 25% profit boost, right? I'm throwing that on this one. They're sitting at minus 142 on the money line. With that profit boost, we get it at minus 113. I love that. I love that. Now, let's just look at the Ken Palm rankings, right? Xavier sitting at 42nd. Texas sitting at 41st overall. Okay? Xavier sitting at 51st offensively. Texas sitting at 37th. Okay. Xavier sitting at 44th defensively, Texas sitting at 56. So Texas brings the better offense into this one. Xavier brings the better defense into this one. Some things we got to consider, though. This game's being played in Dayton. Where's Xavier play? Cincinnati. Cincinnati a whole lot closer to Dayton, Ohio than Texas, right? So definitely going to see some Xavier fans in the stands in this one. I would assume those Xavier fans, they travel, they're rowdy. So I would definitely assume that we're going to see some Xavier fans. Majority Xavier fans, more so than Texas. I could be wrong, but I'm leaning in that direction there. Texas just limping into this first 4 play-in, guys. I mean, they've won just 3 of their last 8. Xavier, on the other hand, has won 7 of their last 8 coming into this one. Xavier's been made favorites 20 times on this season. They have covered in all 20 of those games, 20-0 when they are favored. Whereas Texas is just, 4-9 when they've been a dog on the year. And then Xavier brings a 1-day rest advantage into this game. They are 8-2 when they come into a game with a rest advantage. Texas is just 3-5 when they come into a game with a rest disadvantage. Then we can pop over here to Outlier. We can check out this insight as well. The Longhorns are just 4-11 in their last 15 games as a dog. You can see that here, a whole lot of red. Not what you like if you are on the Texas side. I'm not, man. I'm with Xavier, like I said. Minus 142 over there at minus 142 over there at FanDuel. But with that profit boost from FanDuel, we can get that at minus 113. I've got that locked in, guys. So that's going to wrap it up here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. Hope you found it helpful and useful. And if you did, please do not forget to smash that like button right down below for me. And please don't forget to hit subscribe as well if you have not already. Don't want to miss out on any of this content that we are dropping daily. It's all free for you guys, man. You have nothing to lose. Hit that subscribe button. That's going to do it. I will see you guys tomorrow. We tip off the tournament, man. It's going to be a great day. I cannot wait. Have a great night, guys. I hope you guys all cash out. See you in the morning.